We continue our draft profiles by looking at 3 more options for the San Jose Sharks, the late first, early second round.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. Good friend Will Scouch joins today as we look at 3 players, one that he very much loves, and Eric Nilson. We'll talk about Jack Murtagh, and then Sascha Boumedienne, and if these could be potential options for San Jose as we're getting closer and closer to the NHL draft. So before we get to it with our good friend Will, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And now we bring in Will Scouch. Will, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. It's the weather's warming up here in Ontario, Canada, finally, and just getting right down to the wire here. Last few weeks, it's been a long road. I think my eyes look a little puffy, but that's okay. It's all.
I did make you cry before we started recording, so that is.
Well,
fair.
I didn't think you were going to tell everybody that, but now that that's out of the bag, no, I got nothing on you, so I'm the soft one. But anyway. No, it's going all right.
Is Will Scouch the bitch martyr of public draft scouts on today's episode of Locked On Sharks?
Someone asked me if I was on the show today. Someone asked me if I was the Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan of internet scouts, and I said I was the Scotty Barnes of internet scouts, and they thought that was pretty funny.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm doing well. It's busy, but a different busy than it was, 2 months ago. It's finishing things up and making sure that I'm confident and, all that last minute stuff, cramming before the last couple of weeks here and trying to stay on top of whatever's flying out of the combine as much as I can. So it's busy, but it's good busy. And it's the exciting time of the year, to say the least.
Yes, I imagine every day you wake up, just stare at the video. You're Will Scouch, the Scotty Barnes, the bitch martyr of public scouting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Your
you
daily
will not buckle under pressure today. You will not get tilted by people on the internet writing comments about you. You will be a better human. You will be an adult. That's my mantra every morning.
We all strive to be adults on the internet. One person who's well on his way to being a very highly functioning adult, Eric Nilson, who I am told you absolutely love. So we thought to bring you on to talk about him. Eric Nilson, if you do not know, is a 6'1", 154 pounds forward with your Guardians and played in the J20 this year. A little bit of SHL time as well. Had 37 games, 12 goals, 26 assists in that time. He is committed to go to Michigan State as we continue to see more Swedes and coming over to play college. We'll talk about another one later, but let me start here. What makes Nilson such an intriguing prospect to you?
I mean, I think that he is a player that, if you want to take the angle of guys who could develop really, really, really well over the next few years, I mean, he's a guy who I think is a perfect example of that, right? Like, he's a guy who I think he's grown a little bit in the last 18 months or so. He's very, very lean. He's one of the lowest BMI players available this year, so he's got a lot of physical development to go. And so I will preface everything here by saying, like, his game is really going to hinge on physical development from here. So you are betting on his ability to put weight on and not get slower and all these things. So that's going to be a big factor because as he is, it's hard to see him in the NHL. But I mean, the things I love about him is, I mean, he pretty much checks every box that you look for in a player for me, right? Like he's a guy who is a really, really great skater, really quick to generate speed, really agile in every direction, just a really, really great mobile player. And he combines that with a really, really good sense of awareness and hockey sense around the ice that, you know, like the ability to know where line mates are and make plays and keep possession on his own stick and on his team's sticks and not in the other team's possession. And just this ability to, you know, he passed the puck a ton and he didn't miss nearly as much as a lot of other players. Just a really efficient player going both directions as well. Like, also extremely defensively involved. Like, for a center, he's a guy who is really driving really good possession results defensively as well, which is arguably where I think he's going to be a really, really big asset to an NHL team. And in terms of like off puck reads, you know, cutting play off, causing turnovers, and he's a physical player too. Like, this is a guy who's not shy. I remember there was a game I was watching earlier this year. I think I was tracking a teammate of his, Arvid Drott, and I saw someone on Your Garden throw a guy into the opposing team's bench, just plow a guy and shove him into the bench. And I went, what is happening over there? What defenseman is wearing number 3 on this team that just leveled this guy? I'm curious about this one. And it was Eric Nilson. Like, he's one of the rare forwards that wears a single digit number. And so it was a little bit, he was a guy who I think was really eye-opening for me pretty quick this year. Last year, I made note of him a few times as a guy who was pretty impressive on a different team, but he seems to have played a much more physical brand of hockey this year. And I remember at the Holinka, just the number of times me jotting his name down going, that was a smart play. That was a smart play. That could have been a point. That could have been a goal. This could have been a point. And then he popped for a hat trick and an assist in the bronze medal game, I think. And I think had a point on almost every one of their goals. It's like, okay, finally he got a little bit of regression on the point sheet. But at the end of the day, I think with Nilson, you're getting just a really smart, very skilled, and very fluid 200-foot center who gives you what you need off the puck for sure. And really the only holes in his game are like, he needs to physically develop, he needs to work on his shot, and he needs to also use his shot more and use it from better areas. This was a guy who was very deferential to line mates and a little bit too much of a perimeter playmaker for me, which is kind of, I think, a big reason why you look at his production and it trails other guys on that team by quite a margin. And, you know, I think there are reasons for that, but I mean, to me, there's more to the game than just scoring points. And I think Nilson does an amazing job of bringing a lot right now, and I think potentially could bring a ton more.
Okay. My big question, right? Nilson, not the biggest guy, and 150 pounds, that is very small and very lean, especially for a guy who's 6 foot, right? And we've seen the Mike Grier way of drafting, right? And we do know that Mike Grier, he wants skilled players, right? But if it's between a skilled player and a skilled player who's also a beefy boy, like I think Grier's going to go that way, you know, and especially in the same range where you have guys like, maybe he's not a center, but like Jacob Wozniak, who's much bigger and, you know, maybe does, you know, kind of some of the same stuff and has some of the, like, consistency issues, et cetera, et cetera. But like, why, if you're in the like draft room, you know, pounding the table for Nilson, and, you know, again, I try not to be the size of everything, but we see what Mike Grier wants to do, right? And he clearly values guys who have size to him. Is this one of those guys that we're just going to be maybe slides and then somebody's going to pick him up and be like, wow, look at this guy who's really good, even though he wasn't the biggest guy in the draft?
I mean, like, how big is Phillip Danault, right?
Yeah.
You know, are we really looking at Phillip Danault, for example, who is one of the better known defense first centers in the league? He's 6'1". Yeah. And so, yes, I think that you are, again, I've said this before, but it's going to be with Nilson, you're going to bet that he's going to put weight on. I mean, I asked around a couple of people over in Sweden, and both his parents are pretty tall. So there's a thought over in Sweden that, like, he's going to grow maybe a little bit more.
Oh, is he getting the doctor?
He might be getting the bone chart treatment here, the bone growth chart treatment here. I don't know.
At Michigan State, he's getting the full meal plan, like, just continue to eat as much as you can at Michigan State. So yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when I look at Nilson, I mean, I see a kid who doesn't really have things that in his game you kind of, like, there's not much that I look at him and I watch him and I go, man, I really wish he just did X, right?
Yeah. You're not like nitpicking his game as much. It's just literally the size thing.
And I think it's literally just the physical development and just being able to sort of attack scoring areas a little more. But at the very, very least, I mean, I think about him and I think about what really good defensive centers in the NHL, and I mean really good defensive centers in the NHL play like. And Nilson checks a lot of those boxes. It's not that he's heavier and more physical than everyone else, but he's a pain in the ass. Like he's always around. He's got excellent skating ability. I've done a report on him on my channel, and there's a lot of video in there from the pro games that he played. I tracked 2 of those games and pulled a lot of video from those because I think it was very illustrative of both the strengths and some of the issues with him, especially at that level. And considering guys like Anton Frundell and Victor Eklund played there most of the year, and a few other guys got a cup of coffee there, and a few other guys played in the SHL this year, he gave me a lot of confidence where I'm going, man, if this kid just fills out a little bit, he's going to, it's like he bumps and grinds and battles along the boards with guys that look like buses next to him, but he kind of just bounces off of them a little bit, but he's still there and he's still doing the thing. And so it's like, all right, like if he puts on another inch or two in height and, a good team with a good sort of development system and a good sort of strength and conditioning program picks him up, I don't see a reason. I mean, he's going to Michigan State too, right? Like, look at the types of players that Michigan State's been adding. Malcolm Spence, Shane Vinsagi. They've got Mason West on the way, probably. I think he's one of 2 schools in on Mason West. And so now it's like, and Eric Nilson. It's like they must see something there where they go, yeah, we see a good physical player there too, because that's what he is. And so for me, that's a great environment for him to develop in as well, because he's going to be surrounded by these types of players, and that's just going to be the way that it is. So for me, I have him really, really, really high on my list because I just think that the upside, if we're sitting here thinking about guys that, what are they going to be in 5 years and 7 years? I the name that's always stuck in my head a little bit is Phillip Danault, where it's like, you don't notice him until it's just like consistent where he's just shutting guys down. And Danault's never scored more than 55 points in a season. So it's like, is Nilson going to do that? I mean, I don't think he's going to be a huge point producer. He could. I think he's got enough skill and everything. But I think that's not going to...
A huge cog in a playoff team. Where it's like you need to... especially if you're running, potentially celebrating, who we think celebrating is going to be a very elite 2-way player. But second line, maybe you go a little bit more offense with either Will Smith or Michael Misa, depending on what the Sharks do. You really have to have a guy on that third center who can go out there and match. And Nielsen, that makes a ton of sense.
The thing about him is like it's pretty quick at this point where it becomes like, I am very interested in the player because they play that high energy, high physicality style with some offensive ability that you do need in the playoffs, right? Like, it's not just about throwing hits. So for me, I look at an Eric Nilson and I go, I just think he's a great option, especially for the Sharks if you have like 30th overall, right? Like, if he's there, you get anything at that pick who sticks on your team, and that's a good pick. And so for me, I look at that and I go, I would draft him there, no problem, because he plays a style of play that I will tirelessly believe in. And, again, like, even if he gets to be 180 pounds, 6 feet, 180 pounds, that's not like small, really. That's like average, but that's an extra 30 pounds, 25 pounds on what he's already capable of. And what he's capable of is pretty good in terms of physicality. And he did not look out of place on the men's team. I don't think he would have like produced a whole lot if he played there the whole year. But he didn't look out of place. And so for me, I mean, he just checks so many boxes that past a very quick point in this draft, I go, there might be guys who can make a play a little bit nicer than him, or they go to the net more than he does. Okay, sure. But do they bring the sort of 200-foot energy up the middle, commanding the middle of the ice with their skating ability as well? I don't think there's that many. I don't think.
All right. Before we continue with Will, we talk about Jack Murtagh, who he has some questions about. Just need to take a quick break. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs. Put your posts at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you ever been in a spot where you need to hire like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person is a setback, that's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, let's switch over to a player who I think you're a little cooler on here. So we're going to be looking at forward Jack Murtagh, 6'1", 198 pounds, playing with the U.S. national team, left-handed shot, committed to Boston University. So ding, ding, red flag, circle, et cetera, et cetera. 56 games this year with the U.S. team, 22 goals, 31 assists, 165 shots on goal. So let's start with what does make him an intriguing prospect. And then I know, again, you are a little cooler on him compared to some other people, but kind of give me the elevator pitch for him.
Yeah, I mean, Murtagh is interesting. Like, he's a guy who it's not like, I think he's a guy who brings a lot of intriguing and projectable tools as like a complementary offensive guy, right? Like, I don't think he's a major play driver. You know, he's played on the wing every game I've seen him, and he's more of sort of one of these, a lot of the time, like most of a game that I watch of him, like there's time, you know, he's kind of a perfectly acceptable dude, just sort of chipping in on both sides of the ice, both sides of the puck. And then, like, once the puck's in the offensive zone and someone hits him in open ice or something, he finds a way to make some kind of a play, like once or twice a game, where you go, whoa, okay, that was kind of fun. Like, he's a player who I think pops really brightly at moments and then can kind of fade out a little bit. Like, the track data I have on him pretty much across the board is, I would say, like, extremely mediocre to like okay, you know, like it's not that there's anything I can point at and go, this is not very good, you know. But it's more of a matter of like, yeah, he takes some shots, but they're usually from like mid-range and they're not in huge volumes. And like, yeah, he, you know, works some slot passing some of the time, but they're not completed a whole lot. He doesn't drive a whole lot of shot assists for his line. They don't generate a whole lot of offense with him on the ice at 5-on-5 that much in the first place. You know, yeah, he's very involved moving the puck up the ice, but he's not super successful at it. Like, he's not bad, but it's not, you know, like he's carrying the puck across blue lines, and 45% of the time in my sample, he's bobbling them and losing control. Like, that's pretty low. Guys are usually up more like 80-90% on that, especially if we're talking first round picks. So for me, it's like, I don't mind Murtagh. Like, I think he's a guy who plays
what does he do?
I think
is that the question, right? What does
he
do?
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
but I don't think there's anything.
It's hard to point to that one thing and be like, this is what he does, and this is what you think is going to drive him to be an NHL player, right?
I mean, I think the angle I would go with him is sort of be a more like a physical presence off the puck. You know, just try to be that, cause a turnover, dish it to someone else, be a supportive forward on the breakout, get into the offensive zone and create something. Like, that's kind of the job I could see him doing in the NHL decently well. So for me, it's like, is that something I would use a first round pick on if there are guys that I have higher on my board? And I don't know if I would do that, but I do think he, like we're talking about Eric Nilson, he's 150 something pounds. Murtagh is 40 pounds heavier. So it's like that physical development is already there. So it's much easier to sort of see him and go, yeah, the physicality, yeah, he's definitely moving bodies better and all that stuff. But like, I have better defensive metrics on Nilson, right? He's throwing more hits. He's cutting off more turnover. He's creating turnovers in the offensive zone. He's better in the defensive zone. You know, there's just better metrics, and he's a center. So for me with Murtagh, it's like I have him in my like late second round as like a guy where it's like, yeah, I could see, you know, you put him in college for a few years, he could be a power forward, like a middle six, third line guy that might be a bit physical and have a bit of, like, there are moments where there are really high end moments from him. So I'm not surprised to see him as a potential option in that 30-40 range. And that's probably where he goes.
Yeah,
I in my games of him, I just have a bit of trouble seeing him relative to the rest of who might be there and going, he's the guy. But at some point in the draft, to me, like, he could be the most intriguing option out there for what he does. It's just a matter of where that is.
All right. So he's going to Boston University, as I mentioned, right? And what do you want to kind of see him? I mean, you mentioned kind of like, I guess, find a path of success, but what do you like kind of physical traits or like things that you think that he needs to work on as he finds his path, I guess?
Well, I mean, if you're already like pushing 200 pounds at 6'1", like I don't imagine you should be putting on a ton more weight. Like the last thing you want
it's just strength.
is
like dad strength. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think the big focus for me would be actually like the opposite, like not lose weight, but really focus on like fast twitch stuff in hockey, right? Generating speed, the skill level I think needs some work. And I think if those things come a ways from here, then there definitely could be something more intriguing, I think, with him. But I mean, his mind is wired in such a way where, if he kind of is cool with being that sort of number 3 on a forward line and just sort of playing that physical role, getting pucks off the wall, supporting in transition, getting in the offensive zone. And he does, again, make those interesting plays in the offensive zone and sort of slips pucks through guys. And you just kind of go, oh, okay, right, cool. But I mean, the thing for me is like, obviously there's more context to this, but like watching the under 18s, he was playing a lot with a guy like LJ Mooney. And I think those two guys played off of each other extremely well because LJ Mooney was really moving and shaking and moving the puck. And Murtagh would be right there with him with the sort of one-touch pass in the offensive zone. Just Mooney to Murtagh. Murtagh bounces it back to Mooney. Mooney bounces it back to Murtagh, and you have a goal. Like those kinds of plays, he really does well. And so I see the value there. But if you didn't have LJ Mooney there, I don't think it would happen. So like that's the issue for me with him. But but if you really need a guy like that, and I think in San Jose, like there's a market there for a guy like Murtagh. It kind of checks a lot of the boxes.
Yeah,
I just feel like
you have Celebrini, you have Smith, you have potentially Misa, all those guys. Like Smith and Celebrini have shown already that they can drive play at the NHL level. Do you need another bus driver? Or do you need someone who could be a really cool passenger? They just need a passenger princess. Get you there. Make sure you have a good time. Keep the vibes chill. Yeah, you need a passenger princess.
if you the other thing too with Murtagh is he's very young, right? And you already have a guy like Halttunen in the system. And Halttunen, I think, brings a little bit of what Murtagh already has, but like definitely way more projectable, right? Like Halttunen has his brand and he does his thing. Like that is you just know what you're getting.
He's going to crush one-timers. You get it on the forecheck. He's going to be physical and crush one-time.
Yeah, you put him out on the power play, he'll crush the hockey puck. Murtagh can do that too. He's also very young. I think he's a September birthday, late August, something like that. So he's also pretty young, one of the youngest guys on the under 18 team that's draft eligible. So there's a runway, right? Like you have time with him. But I also do this exercise where I take guys like Murtagh and I think back to like previous NTDP players who, like a guy like Dylan Duke comes to mind, right? Where it's like Dylan Duke was this sort of undersized, but just really rambunctious, physical, active player who had some really projectable scoring methods that weren't just wiring pucks from mid-range. It was more like go to the net, battle, get low to the ground and smash hockey pucks in the net. And he's doing that quite well in the AHL, and that's kind of worked out. And he's got himself an NHL job temporarily, but we'll see what happens. Murtagh, I think, could maybe go that direction a little bit more, but I just haven't seen that out of him just yet, at least not on a consistent basis. And, again, first guy off my board, I'm not sure, but second or third, like absolutely, for sure.
All right, before we finish up with Will, we talk about Sascha Boumedienne, player who Boston University, defenseman, ding, 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 Mike Grier, just needed to take a quick break. There's nothing like playoff hockey. The energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action. The Stanley Cup playoffs here and almost over. There's never been a time to see it live, and Game Time makes getting in the building fast and affordable. Game Time makes you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, Ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. You can save huge with zone deals. They pick the best seats at the lowest price. They have priority mentions, so last minute deals. Save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. And then, of course, you get to see what your seat looks like. Nothing worse than getting to an event and realizing your seats stink. You don't have to worry about that with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, before you roll your eyes, Sharks fans, we're gonna be talking about a left-handed defenseman. The Sharks.
You guys really hate left-handed defensemen these days. I tell you what. Wow. Anyway, sorry.
It's I have to like warn people whenever I talk about left-handed, either like because yes, the Sharks do have a lot of left-handed defensemen in their pipeline to varying degrees of how good you think they're going to be. But another player in that range here. Sascha Boumedienne, 6'2", Boston University player, one of the youngest players in the NCAA. I believe the youngest player in the NCAA last year.
I believe so. Yeah.
Again, circle, red flag, ring your bell. Mike Grier, 6'2", 183 pounds, left-handed, 40 games, 3 goals, 10 assists, 33 shots on goal. So what makes Boumedienne an intriguing prospect?
He's a mystery box, man. Like,
okay.
Boumedienne is a wild thing. Like he's one of the guys where I'm like, I wish I could get in a time machine in the future and just see what happens in 5 years, assuming we don't, all die in that period, right? Like if we could, if he is around and if we're all around. We
better not. I have suffered way too long through this rebuild to not see some sort of fruits from it. So yes.
Exactly. So like I look at a guy like Boumedienne and the reason I feel that way is like his game is pretty simple. He's just really mobile, like really, really mobile and fluid on his feet. And the rest is roll a D20. Like that's kind of the game that he plays, right? Like he has made some of like on his own, like made some of the most just what are you doing plays I've seen all year. But there are other moments where he shakes a guy off at the offensive blue line, gets down the half wall, spin pass out in front of the net. Like some things where you just go, holy crap, what is happening here? Like this guy does the thing. Like the data I've got on him is all around, I'd say not very good, but it is kind of all over the place. Like in the offensive zone, he has some of the highest rates of slot passing and shot assists out of all the defensemen I've tracked. But defensively, it's like a really, really, really mixed bag. Like he's not a very physical player. I don't really think he has the quickness and foot speed to sort of cut pucks off particularly well, but he's not bad at it. But he's an okay passer outside the offensive zone. But again, sometimes you just go, oh my God, I got to hold on to my butt here because this is scary. But he does have, I think at a certain point in the draft, he'll become one of the best just skating defensemen available, right? Like, not necessarily because he's super fast and flashy and whatever, but it's more about like his footwork and how much he's able to cover the ice and with the puck on his stick, just kind of shake guys off and sort of like, I feel like there's a lot there where he might be one of these, skating first defensemen who kind of uses body shifts and nice footwork to sort of trick guys with where he's going, sling passes around and then be a bit more of an offensive force in the offensive zone. And you just kind of maybe cope with some of the lack of strength stuff. But the other thing to keep in mind about Boumedienne that's also very tricky is I don't really think he should have been in college hockey this year. Like it just felt like it was a little bit too far beyond where he is, but that's not, I mean, I prefer kids be like, I want to test myself. Like obviously being a 17-year-old and in college is an impressive accomplishment on its own, and playing hockey at that level on a team that's good. That is that good is also pretty impressive. And so for Boumedienne, it's like how you value that. That's the big question mark. Is like he's a guy who, I think played NCAA hockey and was a bit shaky, but he was a 17-year-old defenseman playing pretty big minutes on a pretty serious program. So like, where does that leave him, right? And
maybe
so
that's one of I always made this like with Will Smith, right? You're probably gonna get your butt kicked for a year, but by the end of it, you're probably gonna be a better player than if he'd hung around. I think was in the USHL the year before, or if he was over in Sweden, wherever he was playing before, like where you're kind of a big fish in a small pond. He probably gets his butt kicked this year, and he's most likely going to be a better player for it in the long run.
Right.
That's like, the hope, right?
He was good in the USHL last year, I remember, but he didn't strike me as a player where I'm going, holy crap, this guy's going to be great in college next year, right? It just was, he had some moments where he looked solid, but I didn't think that there was a whole lot there where I went, oh my God, like this guy is one of the best defensemen available next year. And this year you definitely saw some moments of what he's capable of, but boy, like it was a mixed bag a lot of the time, and especially defensively, I would say that. And like defensemen who have trouble defending at 17, 18 years old, like I get it. It's at the college level and it's tough, but that's tough to like overcome, but it's not impossible. It's a tricky one. Like if Boumedienne goes like 17th this year or something, like mid first, I wouldn't be surprised. Like you bet on the mystery box aspect of it, and you bet on like the mobility, and maybe you get like a Shea Theodore type late first round pick out of him, right? And I could see that being possible. It's just I feel like based on what he's capable of right now in college hockey, I think there's a really long way to go. But he's got the tool, like the tools are there, and the offensive zone at its best, he's done some pretty cool stuff that I've seen. And so it's like, again, I have him slated as a top 40 guy, right in this range, 30 to 40, something like that. I could see very easily. But
if he's your third pick, like at number 33,
right,
you're probably feeling a little bit better about it than if he's your first pick at like
if it's Misa, Nilson, Boumedienne, I mean, obviously you have a lot of left-hand shot defensemen. But I would say
mad at us, Will.
I would say though that Boumedienne is not a guarantee at all. I would think, but he's a good option. And at that point in the draft, I mean, I don't think there's going to be that many players left over realistically that I really could look at and go, there's a much better chance that this guy is going to be an NHLer rather than Boumedienne if he's still available there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out, and how, again, like I'm not saying he's like really, really, really incredible or really, really bad, right? It's like, it's a real tough call and a real mystery box, but there's been like big moments and big moments, like where it's like, I don't know what to make of this.
Don't we have one at home, and his name's Leo Salim Wallenius? Because I'm just like mid-second round pick that the Sharks took last year. Swedish guy who fleet of foot. You kind of know from his skating and stuff like that. Had a weird season where he played with 4 different teams in less than a year. And again, right, in this part of the draft, like you're taking swings on guys who might be something. But it kind of sounds a lot like Leo Salim Wallenius, or am I just reaching here with just the Swedish thing?
I think there's a bit more like finesse in Boumedienne's game and like mobility, really, like the 4-way directional ability. But Salim Wallenius certainly is, I'd say, like a more physical type guy. Like in terms of comparing,
ironic because he's smaller, he's 6 foot, he's on it.
Well, exactly. Like, I mean, who would have thought? Sometimes small guys hit the guys more than the bigger guys, right? Like, who would have thought? Yes. But yeah, I mean, for him, it's like it's a matter of
one, find a home.
Exactly. Yeah, there's that. I
think he's playing TPS. If I think he's supposed to spend the whole year in TPS. So
Finland.
I think so. I think that's
interesting. Okay,
yes.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, but like he's a guy who the similarities with him and Boumedienne, like both are very, very pass heavy. Like they're very sort of pass first defensemen, which is fine. But for Boumedienne, like the big thing, or Salim Wallenius, was I definitely saw a little bit more of like a defensive capability to Boumedienne. Like the skating was used a little bit more optimally. But you could also very easily make the argument that being in the under 20 Swedish league is a very, very different scenario than being in the
Playing
NCAA,
college.
playing for Boston University. Like
One of the
two
best
very,
programs.
very different environments.
Yes.
Like, and that's part of the thing that I think is extremely important, is like perspective in the draft, right? Like,
yep.
The different like one player who looks great in one situation might not look so good in another situation. And you go, oh my goodness, right? Like that's kind of why the U18s are really beneficial. And relative to what I saw of like Celine Valenius last year, from what I remember, and this year with Boumedienne, who was very productive this year, I still think Boumedienne, like, it's a lot more like the production often comes from being on the power play, like running a power play from the blue line and all those things. And I wouldn't say that that's the benefit of a guy like Celine Valenius as much, but at the same time, like they're kind of similar. I see where you're coming from a little bit, but yeah, I definitely think with Boumedienne, it's like more about the sort of skating ability and the skill combination, whereas Valenius is more of like a positioning oriented, just sort of more of a safer kind of player, but a little bit more efficient, I would say. But it's yeah, I don't know. It's all over the place.
They're Swedish and they have fun names to say.
There it is. That's all we need to know. They're Swedish and they have fun names.
Fun names. Will, I would take up way too much time of your time. I know you have more important things to do. So where can the people find you? I know you're doing a live stream, right, during the draft.
Yes. Yeah. We're doing a big shebang, a whole thing. So that'll be happening the night of the draft and all of day 2. So you can check that out on
day 2,
our
buddy. That is,
oh, dude, day two is where the magic happens. That is,
yes.
Day 2 is where the joy comes. That's the best, you know. And like I'll never forget it. Day 2, I was actually in Sphere. You know that I was there, and I was sitting with someone who was a scout for someone, and I won't say who, but someone got drafted, and there wasn't very many people in the building because it was like 5th, 6th round.
Yeah.
He just erupted into laughter. It was so, and it's something that nobody would understand in the world except like a small handful of people. So that makes it extra entertaining for me. But you know, like that's the joy, right? Like you see how teams really think, I think, on the later days and how they really strategize. And that's the fascinating thing. So day 1, day 2, we're going to be streaming. It's going to be a lot of fun over on YouTube at Scouching. I also run scouching.ca, where we have a subscription plan where you can get all kinds of different stuff, Discord server, data tables, visualization tables, early access to our reports. We got tons of reports out. We got tons more coming between now and the end of the month. And we're going to be running the same recaps and pyramid previews, everything through the summer into the new year. So busy few months. Yep, busy few months. It's been a busy little while here, but yeah, all good. And those are probably the best places to keep up.
Yes, watch Scouts during the draft. And then you come out, check out Locked On Sharks.
Recap. And do the show and do our live shows Monday nights, 8 p.m. and Thursday afternoons, 2 p.m. And then you can yell at me about left-hand shot defensemen and why the Sharks would be insane to take Matthew Schaefer at 2 if Anton Frondel goes to the New York Islanders or something insane. So yeah,
we don't need no left shot defenseman here.
That's where you go. Get your licks in there. I'm learning to absorb it better and
not cry after every shot.
Not cry. Yeah. I mean, look at me. Is it that obvious?
Look what you've done to me, people.
Yeah,
look what you've done to me. Will.
I get it. You live in the Bay Area. It's lovely there. You have ammunition, right?
The weather's nice. The future's teal. Etc. So we'll talk again soon. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, anytime, man.
All right, I do want to thank Will Scouch for coming on and hanging out with us. His last set of draft profiles for the season. What a trooper Will is. Always a trooper. But Nilson, I do think makes some sense for the Sharks. I do wonder though with the size thing with Mike Grier if that might be an issue. Boumedienne, I'm really excited about. I know the numbers aren't super great, but I think playing above where he was, right? And maybe should have spent another season in the USHL or like. I'm going to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt there. And I think it's more impressive what he did at that age. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if he has a big step up. And Murtagh, there are some questions of kind of what he's going to be. And maybe he just doesn't have that one things. So out of the three, I think Boumedienne makes a lot of sense for San Jose and what they're kind of looking for as Mike Grier continues to build this team. So again, want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, though, make sure you check out the Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Go local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, you can continue to find Locked On Sharks wherever you listen to podcasts and watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.